Hello students, today we are doing lesson 8.4, multiplying by a monomial. So there are two things that when you're multiplying by a monomial you have to do, and the first one is multiply coefficients, and we're going to talk about what each of these things means in just a minute. So you're going to multiply the coefficients, and then the second thing you're going to do is multiply variables. And we're going to talk about how to do each one of those things, which we have already done them. So nothing is new in this problem, except when we get into some a little bit later, then it's going to be a little bit new to you. Okay, so let's start out with something really easy. Okay, so example 1, we are doing 3x squared times 5x. So in the last two lessons, we were doing adding and subtracting. Now we're multiplying. So the first thing that it says right up here is to multiply coefficients. So the coefficients are the numbers in the front. Okay, so they're your constant terms that are not changing. So we're going to do 3 times 5. So 3 times 5 is 15, right? Okay, now let me erase this. And now we're going to switch over and multiply our variables, which it says right here, right? And that is going to be our x squared and our x. So when we multiply those two, we get x to the third power. And there's my answer, okay? So, super easy. Let's try one on your own. So I want you to do this example 2, and then we're going to get into something that looks a little bit different. So how about you do negative 8 x squared y z to the third times x y z squared. So remember, when you have parentheses right next to something, this also means to multiply. You don't always just see the dot. Sometimes they're parentheses. As long as there's no plus or minus there, then that means to multiply. So go ahead and hit pause and see if you can multiply these two things together. Okay, now that you're back, if you notice, the first thing is to multiply coefficients, and I don't have two coefficients. I only have the negative 8. So I'm just going to bring the negative 8 down. You don't need to do anything else. The coefficient here is a 1. Anytime you don't see a number in front, that just means it's a 1. But negative 8 times 1 is negative 8. Okay, so now I'm going to do my variables. So I'm going to do x squared and x. That gives me x to the third power. Remember, this is like x to the 1 power, right? So if we were to go back in time and remember how we did this a long time ago, it would be like I was writing this out like this with no exponents. Remember, we did a lesson on exponents? And if you look at this after I've written them all out, you'll see that we have 3 x's here. So that's x to the third power. And then when I do my y, I have a y here and a y here. So that's 2 of them, right? Y and y. So then I'm going to have y squared. And then for my z's, I have a z cubed and a z squared, which is z to the 5th power. And you'll see it right here. I have 3 here and 2 here. So that's z to the 5th power. And there's the answer you should have gotten. Okay? Okay, so that seems pretty simple, right? But let's go on to example 3, which is a little bit different. And this is always where the kids get confused, is when I start putting exponents in there. So if I have negative 9x y cubed, all of that squared. Okay, so a lot of kids start this off looking at it and they'll say, oh, that's 18x squared y to the 5th. And that's all wrong. Okay, so when you're doing this, this little squared means that you are doing this 2 times, right? So it's negative 9 times the negative 9xy cubed. Okay, that's what the squared means, is that I'm going to write it 2 times. So when I do that, most kids would get it correct if it was written like this. They mess it up because they see that exponent there and they do the wrong thing. Okay, so let's do the right thing here. And let's multiply it this way first, and then we're going to go back and look at the exponent way. So negative 9 times negative 9 is 81. And then x times x is x squared. And y cubed times y cubed is y to the 6th. Okay, but most kids don't want to write this out twice. They want to just figure it out the way it looks up here. So let me rewrite this. And let's figure it out with just the exponent. So this exponent tells me that I'm going to do -9 times -9, not -9 times 2. So -9 times -9 is 81. And then I'm going to transfer this 2 over to here. So that's going to be x2. And when you have an exponent to an exponent, then that means that you multiply the exponents. So that means I'm going to do 3 times 2 for the y, which is 6. I also did that right here when I did the 2 on top of the x. I just said bring down that 2, right? But it's really doing 2 times 1 because there's a 1 on that x. Okay, so I got the same answer, but too many times I see, okay, I'm going to write this in red. When I'm writing this in red means you do not need to write this. In fact, I don't want you to write this because I'm going to do it wrong. Most of the time when I get a problem like this, I have kids go, oh, 2 times 9 is 18, and then x squared y to the 5th, because they add those exponents. When it's an exponent to an exponent, you always multiply the exponent, so 3 times 2. Because remember, it's like saying I have y to the 3rd power here and y to the 3rd power here, so I have y to the 6th power. Okay, I hope that's understandable. If you're not understanding it, then hit pause, rewind, and listen to it again. Okay, let's move on. So now we're going to do some problems where we have a polynomial by monomial. Okay, so we're going to multiply a polynomial by a binomial. by a monomial. So remember that a polynomial just means more than one term. Okay, so here's our example 4. And then I'm going to have you do 5 and 6 on your own. Okay, so we're going to do 2x times 4x plus 5. So this is my monomial, right? And this whole thing here is my polynomial. So that's why this section is called the polynomial is being multiplied by the binomial. Okay, so let's talk about how to do this. So some of you are looking at this and say, wait, I already know how to do this because I know how to do distributive property. And that's what we're doing. We are doing distributive property. And so that just means that I'm going to multiply everything inside the parentheses by the one that's on the outside of the parentheses. So I'm going to do 2x times 4x, and then I'm going to do 2x times 5. So when I do 2x times 4x, I get 8x squared. Remember, that's an x times an x, and x times x equals x squared. Remember, I don't know if y'all remember, but at the very beginning of the year, I said these two things you would have to know the difference in, okay? Okay, so I did the first one, so now let's do the second one. 2x times 5 is 10x. And there's my answer. It's as easy as that, okay? So this one we just did the distributive property for. And then these are just extra little things that you're supposed to just know, right? Well, that you've been taught. Okay, so let's move on to example 5. I'm going to write it out, and then you're going to pause and solve it on your own. Okay, so we have 3x times x squared minus 7x plus 8. It's very important. I know I've been trying to stress this lately. It's very important that you actually pause and try these on your own. Don't just let the video roll and say, oh, I don't know what to do. At least try it on your own, because you may get it all right and you say, oh, great, that boosts your confidence and you do a math. But if you don't try it at all, then you don't have anywhere to go with what did I do wrong, because you don't know what you did wrong because you didn't try. Okay, so hit pause now and do example 5 on your own. Okay, everybody should be back now. So this one has 3 terms, right? inside the polynomial. So that's a trinomial when it has 3 terms. And we're going to multiply them all by the 3x out front. Okay, so we're going to do distributive property. So what I should end up with is 3 terms. Okay, because inside the parentheses is 3 terms. I'm multiplying by something on the outside. So I'm going to multiply the 3x times the x squared. So remember, when you multiply coefficients or the first numbers, that's just going to be a 3. Because the number in front of x squared is a 1. So I have 3, and then I'm going to have x to the what power? What power did y'all say? It should be 3. Because remember, this is a 1 right there. So we have x times x squared, and that makes x to the 3rd power. Okay, let's move on to the second one. We're going to do 3x times minus 7x. So that's going to give us minus 21x squared, because we have 2 x's, right? And then the last one that we're doing here, 3x times 8, is going to give us 24x. And that's your answer. That's it. So I hope everybody got that right and it wasn't too difficult for you. Okay, but if you didn't get it right, let's go on and try example 6. I want you to take what you didn't get right in that problem, think about it. You can even rewind, recheck it, say, okay, I didn't really understand. Watch me do it myself. Figure out what you did wrong, and then start doing number 6 and figuring out what to do in number 6. So we're going to have 2xy squared times 3x minus 8xy plus 5y plus 3z. Okay, so I want you to hit pause and make sure that you multiply that 2xy squared by everything inside the parentheses. Okay, everybody should be back now. So I'm going to do my first one here, and that's going to give me 6x squared y squared. Okay, so you have 2 times 3 is 6. The x times the x is x squared, and then the y squared just stayed the same. Okay, my next one is going to be this one. So I'm going to have minus 16x squared y cubed. Okay, the next one, 2xy squared times 5y, is going to be plus 10xy cubed. Okay, so because I had y squared here and a y here, so that made y cubed. And my last one is going to be 6xy squared z. So this z didn't really have anything to multiply it with, so I just tucked it at the end. So the xy squared is from over here, and the z is from over here. Okay, and that's it for today. So hopefully this isn't too difficult for you to be able to do the multiplication here. And, oh, I forgot to put that last arrow there. And you'll be able to do your schoolwork for this one. And that's it. Thanks.